Welcome to VMblog's coverage of KubeCon Cloud Native Con 2020. Today we have the pleasure of having Ajay Gandhi, who's the Vice President of Product Marketing at Dynatrace. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
So I guess to kind of kick things off, if we could, just for the folks at home that may not know enough about Dynatrace yet, can you give us a quick overview of the company?
Absolutely, David. So we are a software intelligence platform, and I'll talk more about that. But basically, for companies that are trying to deal with cloud complexity as they move to more cloud native environments, public clouds, Kubernetes, and other things, there is a lot of complexity that they have to deal with in managing and keeping those environments working optimally, both the apps, workloads, and the infrastructure itself. And a lot of companies are kind of investing a lot more in this than they did even 6 to 8 months ago because of COVID and digital transformation requirements for people to be digital. So basically, another way of thinking of what we do right now for most of our customers is provide automatic and intelligent observability. So for many practitioners, that's going to be a term that they know, and it's a use case they're trying to figure out with all the different investments they're making in cloud. So things like application performance monitoring for microservices and apps, infrastructure monitoring, making sure your users have great experiences on your mobile apps, your website, and any of your other kind of touch points, often known as digital experience management. So it's really all about, are your apps running optimally? Are they delivering the right experience for your customers? And is the infrastructure housing all this stuff, delivering you sort of the right experience, right apps, hopefully at the right cost?
Now, you mentioned a little bit about COVID, and that's been a major shift for everybody, with the work from home. How has it affected your company specifically, and also how has it affected some of your customers?
Yeah, no, it's obviously a top of mind thing for everybody in the world, I hope today, and certainly for companies. As a company, we've definitely focused when it happened in March, really hit everybody. We focused on what our clients need to do in this environment as they deal with economic uncertainty and pandemic concerns. So one example is our events have become virtual, like that's not uncommon right now. So we just finished a very successful set of regional events called our Dynatrace Go conferences. They're all virtual. So we had thousands and thousands of attendees. And we had Steve Wozniak on there, Mark Randolph is co-founder of Netflix, some interesting keynotes. The other thing is, like most companies, we are following sort of local health guidelines in every country that we operate in, and many cases down to county and city level, as we all are. And so, our focus is on employee health and well-being, making sure everyone's safe, and also for clients, right? So most of our employees worldwide, and certainly in the US, are still working from home. And we've been fortunate that everyone has been able to continue collaborating at a high level to meet our customer needs. And of course, with COVID, virtually all our customers are accelerating their investment in digital channels, right? And so what's interesting to us is you would expect tech companies like ourselves to fully go online and shift, but it's not just technology companies, right? It's financial services companies, manufacturing companies, retailers, public sector. Everybody's had to shift en masse to digital to serve whoever their customer is. And that's some of our customers have described, the stuff we were going to do, modernizing our environment, going to cloud and Kubernetes over the next 3 years, we've had to do in 6 months or in less than a year. And so that's put a lot of stress and strain. So our goal has really been, how can we, with our Dynatrace offering, help customers move faster, innovate faster, make sure things work and are optimized when they certainly don't have the ability to hire as many people, nor maybe the skills to do that. So that's kind of been the focus for us with working with our clients. Really focused on what do they need to get done to be successful, and hopefully that will also make us successful.
And that's a good transition point. I think COVID did sort of accelerate the growth of cloud, containers, Kubernetes. What kind of changes and directions do you see for those industries moving forward into 2021?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, if you kind of double click on this move to digital that I talked about, really what most people are investing in are, you know, what we call dynamic multi-clouds. So a lot of, you know, we kind of target sort of the biggest 15,000 companies in the world across all industries. And a lot of them have some hybrid stuff, they may have some legacy stuff, and they're, as we said, going full into cloud native and Kubernetes. You know, it was really interesting. We did a survey recently of 700 CIOs. Every company was a billion plus company. And I think close to 90% of CEOs, maybe 86% said they're going to invest in cloud native and Kubernetes and microservice and containers. So basically everybody is moving to this. And what's happening is customers are seeing a lot of complexity, because the great thing about these new technologies, they're very agile, but it's very complicated to know when something's not working. Is it my workload in Azure or AWS or cloud or my Kubernetes service? Or is it some backend service that I call that maybe is in my data center or in some hybrid or in a third-party SaaS app, right? That becomes super complicated for customers to understand. And every minute that your user experience has declined, you're losing money or you're losing customers, and they're maybe going to a competitor, right? So the stakes have never been higher. And so making all these services work flawlessly has become sort of job one for most companies. You know, whether you're a retailer or a bank, you're a digital software company now also, right? That famous software eats the world. Well, we're watching it eat every industry right now, right? In a bigger way than we even thought possible. And it's the complexity of these clouds that's really, you know, driving the interest for customers to use Dynatrace to help manage Kubernetes and their cloud environments. A lot of, you know, example, 63% of the CIOs, 63% said the complexity of managing their cloud environments has surpassed their human team's ability to do it at scale. Too much data, too many things that are spinning up and spinning down. The dynamic nature of it is too much for people to understand what's going on. So they need, you know, 70% of the CIOs are saying most of their team is spending time doing manual tasks, and they need to figure out a way to automate them, but with intelligence. Mm-hmm. And that's really been our thrust as we've helped customers accelerate digital.
Maybe you could give us kind of a deeper dive into the Dynatrace management suite, and what problems does it specifically solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is our approach, unlike maybe some of the other players in the industry, is we have a unified platform to go after the different use cases that we solve for customers. I think, you know, broadly it's observability that we're solving, right? But then you look at it, it's what's happening with my workloads, what's happening with my apps, what's happening with my cloud infrastructure, the digital experience for my users, which users are affected. So we can actually help pinpoint, you know, these users in this geo, or maybe this segment of users down to each user session. You can actually understand, are they getting the experience you want them to get? And of course, you can then map that to business results and KPIs. Are we getting the business results we wanted from these new services we've pushed out or the new features we've released? If not, how do we, you know, what's the problem? What's the issue? And that's really where our AI engine, we actually gave it a name, Davis, so it feels a little more relatable. Our AI engine, Davis, helps figure out exactly what's the precise root cause that may be causing issues. But more important than that is what's the context around that root cause? What users are affected? What business processes are affected? So that you're not only just fixing some technical thing, but you're also understanding how to prioritize based on business outcomes and business priorities, which I think is a big differentiator and something needed in this time where you have less people, less resources, but still an urgency to move fast for what your customers are looking for. So that's, you know, if I kind of think of the use cases, you know, we call it like infrastructure monitoring, application microservices performance, digital experience management. And then we also offer use cases for DevOps and SRE teams across the software lifecycle, as well as things like business analytics that bring together those business KPIs I mentioned with performance and development data.
And you sort of mentioned it as we talk about, you know, some of the differentiators, but, you know, it's sort of a confusing space. It's an evolving space. if someone were to come, say at KubeCon, like if someone
Yeah.
came up to you off the show floor and asked you, hey, we've seen a lot of products here. What makes you guys unique or differentiated? Is it your AI, or what is it that it specifically sets you apart from others?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a two-level answer to that question. So I think at its core, our platform is designed with AI and automation at the core. And so automation to let you scale and quickly snap to new technologies and deal with changing tech stacks, which is now how IT is basically running.
Mm-hmm.
And in AI or intelligence to let you not only observe or monitor, which, it was kind of, there's monitoring and observability, which we definitely do, but it's really to understand what's happening to whom in what priority, right? And then that understanding lets you prioritize your scarce human resources to go after the most important problem in the right order. And at the same time, you can, some of our customers are now using Dynatrace to even predict or anticipate things that might be happening. Because once you get the level of understanding and everything is continuously updated. So, I think one of the things that makes us unique is when you think about observability, if think about its metrics, traces, and logs are usually the sources of data in an IT environment. And we certainly support those three pillars of observability, but we realize to do it at scale, you have to go way beyond that. You need more context, more understanding. So things like user behavior, code insights, metadata, network and API, open telemetry and other open source frameworks. You need to bring all of that together. And we do that in what we call a smartscape, which is the topology of how all this stuff is related. And that topology is kept up to date in real time. So you spin up new containers or new Kubernetes clusters, the topology gets updated. Things spin down, it's updated. That allows our AI engine to always know what the precise root cause is. Because rather than trying to figure it out through training and a model, which is maybe a machine learning approach, we use a deterministic causation AI approach. So we have this mapping that's always there and always updated. And the AI engine basically walks a fault tree. And it tells you this is a root cause right now in your environment based on all the updates. And I think that's a key differentiator for us is this ability to instantly know and understand what's going on with context. At the same time, everything is built on one platform. So maybe unlike other things, we have different tools for different things of the stack, right? Something for apps and something for Kubernetes, something for your storage or network. We have one platform. That means we have one data model. So that means whether it's developers or IT operations people or business people, they're all kind of looking at the same data, but customized for how they want to look at it. And that allows collaboration to be far more effective. So a lot of the time when you're trying to figure out what's wrong, there's a lot of, well, it's the code. No, it's the Kubernetes cluster. No, it's the business requirements. Like this is what's causing the problem. And this allows everyone to kind of collaborate more effectively. And I think the key is to go from observability to understanding and ideally to predictability. That's what gets you want to solve problems before your users and customers are affected. That's
Right.
really the goal here, right?
And usually around this time, a lot of companies use, KubeCon and Cloud Native to announce new product updates. Does Dynatrace have any recent updates or new features you could share with us?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in fact, we're going to be announcing something at KubeCon, which is pretty exciting. We talked about open telemetry a little bit, which is very well known to KubeCon attendees. We're going to be announcing sort of the next generation of our distributed tracing technology called PurePath. And this is pretty significant because you can, our name is Dynatrace, right? We come from the tracing world, and we actually have some of the earliest patents on distributed tracing for cloud environments in the market. And we've been kind of evolving that over the years. And now our PurePath distributed tracing technology has code level insights built into it, some of the extra extensions of observability I talked about, but now it fully supports all the open telemetry libraries. So that's a pretty significant new generation for us. So this means things like Kubernetes Service Mesh, all the functions as a service technologies from Azure, AWS, and Google. All of these will be supported out of the box. And what's interesting about what we're releasing with this announcement is not only are we supporting OpenTelemetry, but we're adding that context to OpenTelemetry data. So if you just support OpenTelemetry through your apps and the libraries, obviously you're going to get some data. But I think what we're doing is taking our experience from other data sources and adding things like what's happening with CPU, memory, and thread analysis. What versions are being what versions of the app, what versions of features, what stage are you in development? What's happening with code level metrics for that data. And we also sample everything full fidelity. So we don't take samples. We actually do high fidelity data collection. So that allows users of Dynatrace to get sort of the full picture at all times. So infrastructure health, container metrics, code level insights, all that gets enriched with your OpenTelemetry data. So I think that's pretty significant, and that's really the first solution out there that does that with OpenTelemetry.
Well, you've given us a lot to digest. This all sounds great, and I wish we were there in person to walk through it. But is there something you can show us over this session? Maybe some screenshots or just something?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple of things here, so let me walk you guys through it. So I wanted to start with, this is a quick screenshot of our one of our dashboard screens. And what's interesting here is I mentioned we have a unified platform, right, across your whole full stack. So you can see here, you get a quick glance what's happening with application health. If you look at the middle column with the map, it actually would show you different users, and the service health are those different, each of those little octagons under service health are actually different services or microservices or apps that are running. In this case, everything is green, but I'll show you an example just now where it isn't. And on the right-hand side, you also have your infrastructure health. So what's happening with the network, what's happening with AWS services, what's happening with my Docker containers, just as an example in this demo environment. So this is literally a unified platform of your whole business, given that a lot of customers, their business are at their digital stacks now, right? So I wanted to actually give it a deeper example. This is a similar dashboard, but focused on your Kubernetes environment. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so we don't need to go through it all, but you'll see you have the similar green list of services and nodes in Kubernetes. In this case, there's a problem with one of them because it's highlighted in red. And you can also, get as much detail as you want here. So, what's happening with all the different pods you've deployed, what's happening by namespaces and CPU. So you can see all the different context here around Kubernetes, and what's out of memory, what's happening with container memory usage and CPU throttling time. So all the stuff that Kubernetes platform teams need to make sure that their pods, clusters, nodes are all working accordingly. And this is something that we've supported for a couple of years, but we've kind of enhanced it in the last couple of months. And this is a deeper example where you can now get into different workloads, events, and you can get a lot more infrastructure metrics on what's happening in the Kubernetes environment, which is really important for most customers today, because getting these metrics is actually non-trivial given how dynamic Kubernetes is. It's not easy to understand what's happening as containers spin up and spin down. And then here you can see that we can also look at specific applications that are running in Kubernetes. In this case, it looks like we've got a cart service, a front-end service, and a shipping service from an app called Hipster Shop. You may be familiar with that. It's a sample app that's available to test Kubernetes stuff. And then finally, we are able to integrate with native events in Kubernetes too. So you're able to look at native events and failed and pulled and back-end failures, just to allow the platform teams to really hone in on it. And as I mentioned earlier, it's platform teams and apps teams that can now get the same context, whereas typically customers would have to use different tools. So that's really an interesting overview of Kubernetes. If we have time, I can actually walk you through a really quick demo. I mentioned our fault tree and how the AI engine works in a pretty unique way. So I thought it'd be interesting to just give you an example of that. Are we up for that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
Great. So this is a picture of what we call a problem card. So this is basically, I mentioned that Dynatrace can automatically detect a problem. So this is when a problem is detected, you would kind of click on the problem link and you'd be brought to this page. And there's a lot going on here that I'm going to deconstruct. So we'll just go around and kind of explain this. And this is, I think, the heart of what makes our platform unique, is the fact that A, this is generated automatically as soon as something happens across your stack, and B, the context that you get. You don't just get told there's an alert or a problem, but you get a lot of context. So the first thing you get is, you get the information on the service itself. So there's one affected application, there's 9 dependent services on that application, and there's 2 things affected in your infrastructure. So you're able to immediately get at a glance, and you can see on the right-hand side, it says Davis analyzed 292 million dependencies. Wow. So that was done to get to this result. And sometimes those are billions, kind of in some of our bigger customers. And so this is what Davis, our AI engine, was analyzing to tell you, hey, there's something that's been affected. And obviously the question is, well, what's the root cause of that, right? Mm-hmm. So the other thing you get here is the business impact, right? You can see that not only are we telling you there's a service that's been affected and a bunch of related services, but we're telling you 608 users have been affected. 4.4 million service calls have been affected by this problem. And there's one impacted application. So you're already narrowing it down to what the problem is. But you're also understanding there's 600 users that have been affected. And you could, if you wanted, drill into each user and understand how they were affected. And we have a service called Session Replay, which will actually replay the user session. So you can see exactly what they went through and the impact. Yeah. If you wanted to get to that level, if it was a really high value set of customers, for example, maybe worth that time. The other thing here is you can also see, you can see how they're affected, right? You can see that it's a loading of a page and it's affecting users with all operating systems and all geographies. So it's universally being affected. So here now we've got the root cause. So this is the actual root cause. So this is telling you that it's a response time degradation. And you can analyze the code level, you can analyze database calls, you can analyze all the dependent services that came from the service that's been identified, the check destination service in this example. So we can double click on the deployment and you can now get information on where the service was deployed. So you can see that it's actually a service in ServiceNow in this example, which is a well-known SaaS app. And you can see that there's a remediation step of like maybe a runbook to solve that problem that was defined already in advance. You can see what projects, you can get all the context, what version, what approver, what git commit, so if anyone had made changes to the service, you can see kind of where that code lives. Mm-hmm. So lots of context. So one of the other things you can do around navigating a problem is you can actually go through what we call a visual resolution path. So you can actually see, this is basically a visual representation of the topology I talked about. Narrow it in on the service and the dependent services. So if you click on that, you get on the left-hand side, you get the different services. So you can see there's some Golang services and some Apache services and SDKs and things like that. And on the right-hand side, you can see an actual evolution time-based of when users started getting impacted. So that graph, the higher that graph goes, the longer the load times are for users. The y-axis is actually how long it takes for pages to load. The x-axis is time since the problem was detected, right? So you're actually able to see where the problem started and how it spread across the environment. If you click on this problem evolution chart, you can see, if you get a lot more detail, you can see that there's a peak that happened around the 215 mark, and you can see which services were affected. So you get a rich amount of detail explaining, how the problem evolved in your environment. Now let's go back to the problem card, and you can see now that you can double click and go deeper and deeper into the underlying underlying causes of this thing. You can see the fault tree, you can see the resolution path, and you can also see that, you can also remediate this stuff. So when you figured out what the problem is and you figured out what team is responsible, you can activate sort of automatic remediation, or you can have the team go figure it out themselves. It just depends on what the right remediation is, and you saw that in the earlier graph. So this problem card looks like a typical product screenshot, but there's actually so much context here that's really unavailable in any other solution, right? So it's really the fact that everything is related to your user experience, to the business impact, to your infrastructure, and of course the app and the services that are running, that are impacted. So I think that's really a great example of the power of the Dynatrace platform and how the AI engine and the automation work together to deliver sort of observability that's really different than you can get from anywhere else.
Well, thanks for that great demo. Where can folks go if they want to find out more information about Dynatrace and some of the things you talked about today?
Yeah, fantastic. You can definitely go to dynatrace.com, our website. I think there's options there to try a free trial if you want to check out the product and maybe try some of the demo stuff I showed. There's lots of great insights on the platform and customer examples, how customers are using Dynatrace. So I definitely check out the website as a next step.
Great. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Brian, David. It's great to meet you guys.
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more from our cloud technology partners, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to get notified next time we post a video, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification. Very important.